Hey everybody, the world as you know it is constantly changing. As new technologies and new ideas move forward, things just change forever. You know, you can't see a world without mobile phones at this point. You can't see a world without the internet. If you did see these things, it would be for some apocalyptic reasons most likely, and in those scenarios, well, that's probably the least of our worries. We are kind of on a cusp of a revolution, of something that once it gets out there properly in the way that I'm going to be talking about, it's never really going to go back. And that's talking about robotics, and a thing that I heard said a little while ago of that there'll be a robot in every house by like 2045. Now, I don't actually agree with that. I don't think that's the case. However, robotics, automation and AI is definitely something which is going to be used as a massively powerful tool, but for a lot of people they're going to see it as a big concern, a terrible evil on the world. It will destroy labour, as in physical labour, of people to do jobs, to earn money, to do their, to have a life. You need money, you need to work, and if someone replaces you with a robot, well then, what chance do you have? And that has never and will never change. Let's remember that the exact same thing was said about weaving mills many years ago when the Luddites came along and smashed them all up. Now, I understand what they were fighting for, and I don't want to see people having their jobs replaced by robots, but there are inevitabilities in life which you can't get around. The technology is getting closer and closer every single day. Now, depending on what you want said robot to do, can mean that they almost can already be a thing. I mean, if you look to restaurants and things in other countries, they're already using like automatic waiters that are just basically all robots that are told, go carefully through the restaurant to table 14. It knows where table 14 is, it knows where all the walls are, it can pick up people, it can avoid them, and it can take the meals to them. That robot may cost, I don't know what, say 10 grand, which is less than you're going to pay someone, a waiter, for a year, and thus businesses can earn more money. And for that reason, people say that that is an evil machine because it's taken someone's job away. And it's hard to argue with that. It's kind of inevitable that these things are going to happen. Progress is progress, and progress never cared about being fair or kind or anything like that. It's like a steamroller. You either get out of the way, get on board, or get flattened. So I can understand people's concerns, but there is one place I think that these robots could do wonderful things. Really useful things, and something that we need and will need more in the future, and that is care for the elderly, care for people who need it. Someone who, you don't necessarily need a whole human being there all day. You just need someone to go and grab your pills from the cupboard. You need someone to remind you to take your pill, maybe if you've got like neurological conditions that affect your memory. There's people who are disabled who can't just go and get something, or maybe they can't even just use a double set of cupboards in their kitchen because they can't reach the top one. The reason I think these care robots are the ones that are going to be important into, normalising robots being used in work, or at least where they'll be used a lot in the future, is because it will be so much more cost effective. The amount of people that their parents have to go into a nursing home because their kids haven't got time to look after them because they have to work so many hours, to earn enough money to look after themselves. That the parents have to go into a home, which means they have to sell their house, which means that over the course of the remainder of their life, that money slowly gets chipped away at by the care homes and the carers to look after them. And it means that by the end of it, there's not normally a lot left to leave the family because the care homes have been rinsing them, in my opinion. I think the cost of care is unbelievable, but I do understand that part of that is because the wages are high, because partly people don't want to do the job. And there isn't enough people as it is. Plus, it can be a pretty strong responsibility-filled job that you need to pay people decent money to get to do properly. But that sometimes feels like that's not the case, and where maybe carers don't care. I've certainly experienced this with elderly relatives of mine, who the carers who are paid to be there and look after them stole from her. Money, there was some jewellery that went, even just simplest things of stealing food out of the cupboards. It's horrible. To do that when you're supposed to be there caring for them, but you're actually just taking advantage of them, it's pretty disgusting, and a robot won't do that. And that's something that a lot of people will like. They will trust a robot to not do something wrong. They won't trust people not to. I know a lot of people will be like, hang on. I think there's a type of robot that's got a different type of care in mind that probably is going to be more prevalent. I don't disagree with you. The other thing is, in a known area, like a robotic vacuum cleaner, if it knows the area, it can do the job. It's got basic sensors to not knock into things. Well, in the future, these robots, they may not be humanoid at first. They may just physically be able to pick things up. Maybe they're like the Boston Dynamics spots. I don't think that's a great form to carry plates around, but they can make adaptations. Maybe it puts it on its back or something. I don't know. But these robots are not going to necessarily cost a huge amount of money. I mean, maybe it'll be a subscription service thing rather than you buy it. I mean, their predictions that it will cost at first, when they start becoming a thing that you could usefully use, it'll be less than the cost of a car or something like that. Because the technology, the actuators and all of that, it's not complicated. I mean, if you want something like the Boston Dynamics robots that are doing backflips and somersaults and jumping around and can do all that on their own, then yeah, okay. But when you're in a known space, you don't need something nearly that complicated. I mean, it can even be on wheels, assuming you don't live in a house with stairs, although maybe it's got some way of getting upstairs, like a little mini lift it gets in. I don't know. I know that starts getting a lot more expensive. The point is, you say it's a lot of expense, but when you work out how much it costs to look after someone between the ages of, maybe 75 and 95, maybe even longer, because the longer that we go on, the older we're living, and that exacerbates the issue of why we need so many carers. That cost could make a lot of sense to not go down the route of going into a care home. For the parents who maybe have a smaller house and buy a robot and then live in their own house independently. I'm sure many would be much more happy to do that, unless they get lonely, and then the care homes are great for them to make friends and have chats and talk about the old days and the times that they knew when everything seemed right. There's something I've realised about old people. They must honestly look at the world and be like, what the hell are you all up to? Back when I was younger, it was so much more simple. Now, that's not always the case, obviously, there's World War I and World War II happened back there, so things weren't peachy necessarily, but I just get that feeling. Now, I imagine the majority of people are going to say the same thing, which is, it's only so long before it's going to murder your gran to death with her own pills, or, something like that, or it's gonna go sentient and take her out. Those are true issues with all robots. People don't seem to have those concerns with floor vacs, like, it doesn't come for your neck in the night or something. I will slowly wear away the skin until you die. The other thing I know for a fact is, when this does come around, people are going to love their robots. And I don't mean love their robots like you love a computer game. I mean, they're going to love them like a pet, like a person. I know you might be like, no, no way. No, as long as the thing isn't scary, as long as there's something endearing about it, trust me, if that robot looks after someone for days and years, and they're reliable, and they're always there, and they're consistent, and they don't cause confusion because they don't do things differently at different times, it's just repeated at the same time, if that's what that person needs or wants, they will learn to hold on to that robot as an integral, important part of their care in their life. It's inevitable. This will happen. I don't think we're going to get into a position where people are like, you know what, I don't want a wife or a girlfriend, I'll just get a robot. I'm sure there will be a minority that may go that way. But, someone married a roller coaster, and some people have friendly times with their cars, and there's a lot more people do that than you probably think. And that's ultra weird, but more normalised things, like, as I say, caregiving. I should have probably gone for a longer ride. I didn't think this conversation was going to take this long. Don't notice I've been around in a circle. I'm going to Tesco's now. I'm going to end it before I get there. What future technologies do you think are inevitable? What futures? Although a lot of people don't have the opinion I have, which is I just see things as inevitabilities. People say, things can get better. No, they can always get worse. They can always get worse. Like that drawer in the corner of your room that you tidy every year or two. Entropy is going to make sure that organisation turns to chaos. And with chaos, change comes. And you throw some stuff away and you retidy it. That's the way people should see it. Not chaos as, well, it's just going to fall apart. It's just going to fall apart like a poorly sauced salad sandwich in a windstorm. I'm somewhat hopeful for the future. If anything, maybe I'm a little bit overly hopeful for the future. Maybe that I hold on to these hopes of future good things that will help people and make people happy. Maybe that's held on to in my brain simply because I'm not sure if we're going to get to that point if we continue going on the way we currently are. As I say, I don't want to talk about just robotics and everyone going on about Skynet. This is a serious thing. It's an inevitability. Care needs to be given. Robots can do it. It's cheaper than real people, and we don't have enough real people to do it, and it seems like most people don't want to do that job anyway. So isn't that a perfect job for a robot? If it works for the people. And as I say, I know you'll say, well, that's not caregiving. It's not a real human being. It's not a true compassion. But I don't know if that matters. As I say, I think that compassion, that feeling of care will be there. If your computer helps you, if a device helps you, you're going to feel an affinity and a gratefulness to that inanimate object, even if it's just in its programming. So let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, smack the like button, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.